What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for listening to Your Ex-Drinking Buddy. My name is Brennan Tassif. I'll be your host. Subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcast. Check out the merch store at brennantcomedy.com/merch-store. And make sure you subscribe on YouTube as well. We'll put the shorts up there, the full video, the whole thing. Thank you so much for listening. I love it. I hope you love it. Subscribe on Patreon, too. We do bonus episodes. I do Tales from the Restaurant, where I talk about celebrities I've waited on and whether they're assholes or not, which is super fun. Also, we do a pre-show banter for my other show, Cheers from the Press Box with Joe Dorville. A lot of behind-the-scenes stuff going on over there, too. Make sure you just subscribe everywhere, just all over the place. I greatly appreciate it. And if you're not leaving the mean comments, thank you for that. Maybe leave a couple nice ones.
Grab me a beer and grab him a coke. We bout to sit for an hour, bullshit and tell jokes. And please don't mix it up, cause he done sobered up. Brennan T Comedy on your social media feeds. And Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Brennan Tassif is your ex-drinking buddy. I'm your host, Brennan Tassif. If you're new to the program, quick rundown of the show. I used to be everyone's favorite drinking buddy. It was my favorite thing to do, hang out with friends, get drunk, do drugs, get in all sorts of trouble, and then reminisce about those crazy stories. I am sober now, but it's still one of my favorite things to do, to hang out with somebody and reminisce about the crazy old days. Most weeks I will be joined by a guest. This week is no exception. All the way from Jacksonville, Florida, Roger Staton.
Very happy to be here. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
What's up, dude?
Great. We've known each other for a long time.
Yes, we have.
Done comedy together for
You're looking at a place in New
years,
York?
looking at places. Yeah, I do have a question for you.
Yes.
Before we even start, at what point in living in New York do you have to stop wiping your ass at every stop you make? Because my ass has been so sweaty.
Oh,
just walking around, like
yeah.
I feel like I have to wipe my ass.
Yeah, it just kind of comes with it.
Do you get used to it, or does it go away? Does
You
your
get
ass
used
dry
to it.
up?
Your significant other doesn't get used to it.
No,
There's a lot
no,
of times I get home from work and I will sit on the couch and my Tracy, who I'm contractually obligated to mention in every podcast,
Yes, of course.
will go, "What the fuck is that smell?" And I'm like, I was running around at work. It was really sweaty.
Probably my ass. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, man. That's we were walking around. We were walking around, looking at the apartments, walking around the city. We've been, doing it all since we've been here, and I literally have to stop and wipe my ass.
Yeah, it gets hot. You're
insane,
moving,
dude.
you're walking, and that's the thing I talk about all the time. Coming from Florida, people are always like, "Oh, you're probably used to this heat," and I go, "We go from an air-conditioned place to an air-conditioned car,
exactly, 100%.
right back to an air-conditioned." I'm like, yeah, I'm used to.
100%.
If I park in the back of a parking lot, being like, "Ah, this is gonna suck," but it's not. Like in New York, it's different because you're just out in it all the time.
Yeah, because I got here and I'm like, especially today, it's cooler outside. It's not hot by any means. So I'm like walking around in the shade. I'm like kind of cool because I'm like used to Florida, right? So I feel it in my bones, But then I'm like walking around and I'm like, why is my asshole sweating? Like, what is happening?
It's another thing too, because you will suit up, so you'll like layer up because it's cold.
Yes.
And then the second you start walking to the subway, you're like, I'm sweating. I'm sweating now.
Yeah. So that's definitely gonna take some getting used to, I think.
Yeah, and it's cool too. The coolest thing is when you walk outside and it's nice and crisp and you're not like sweating and you're like, I feel good. And then you walk down to the subway and because it's underground and the train's running, it's like 100 degrees and you're like, awesome. This is cool. This is going to be a great day. Before we get too far into anything, plug everything up front. Social media, anything you got going on?
Yeah, so on all of my social media, I think it's Roger_Staton, Staton, no N in the middle.
I know. See, I had to correct myself when I wrote it down because I just assumed I knew what it was.
Yeah. But that's me on social media. You can catch me there. That's really it right now.
Yeah, so let's get into it. So for those of you listening who aren't from Jacksonville and don't know Roger, you are a comedian. You've been in comedy for a long time. That's how we met. Yep. But before that, and even during that, you've been a professional wrestler.
Correct. Yeah. So I started comedy in 2012. Did that for that entire time, and then I decided I love pro wrestling. Let's give it a try. I moved to Orlando and started training with the Dudley Boys.
Yeah.
At their school, which was fun. So a fun story about that is we have the Dudley Boys that train you wrestling. Badass Billy Gunn also.
Oh, the Badass Billy Gunn?
Badass Billy Gunn also trained. And then we had
I've met him.
Yeah.
He's a cool
one
guy.
of the nicest guys, dude. He's so nice. Just terrifyingly huge. Like
he's big because
he's tall. He's big. He's
when he wrestled with D-Generation X, they're all around the same height, and then Triple H was always the biggest one.
Sure, yep.
So you never put 2 and 2 together.
100%.
But one of my regulars is Tony Khan at the restaurant back in Jacksonville. So he got us the tickets to go to AEW, and we got to meet a bunch of wrestlers. And I was like, you're a lot bigger.
I will say that was clutch of you too to get those AEW tickets during the pandemic. Like when nobody was supposed to be there, we were in the crowd. It was so sick.
That was one of my. That was fun for those of you listening. And if you're a Patreon subscriber, you've heard me talk about Tony on Tales from the Restaurant. But he's a regular at Morton's, and then they were doing it at Daly's Place during the pandemic. Yeah. And they found a stipulation where they could do like a friends and family.
Yes. Yeah.
So then I remember Tony came into the restaurant. One of our bartenders, huge shout out to Sione. He was like, hey, if you need people to like fill the seats, let me know. And he goes, yeah, just tell me how many tickets you want.
Yeah.
So then Sione reached out to all of us and was like, hey, if you have anybody that wants to come. And I was like, I know a couple people.
I know some wrestling fans.
I know a couple people. Yeah. And then, we got, and it's so cool. Like there was only like maybe 100 of us.
We were
in
like
the whole
part
crowd.
of history.
Yeah,
like we were part of the AEW history. There was that whole because AEW started. This is going to be nerd shit for all the wrestling fans, but AEW started and it was it kind of had a great run for a short time. And then
for
the
like
pandemic,
8 weeks.
And then the pandemic hit.
WWE,
and then the pandemic hit. And it was like, shit, what's going to happen with us now?
Yeah.
So they had this big era now that was like the pandemic era, and we were part of that. Like, I think we were the whole reason for their success. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe.
I mean, we were in the stands. You can hear us chanting to Jericho
exactly.
to the point where he stopped talking and like addressed to the crowd. Yes. It was fun. But I want to, because you were talking about wrestling and going to Orlando and stuff, before we get too far down that rabbit hole, because I like to, since it's your first time, kind of start with, because you started comedy before you started wrestling.
Yes. So
how did you even get into comedy?
So I had always loved stand-up since I was a kid.
How did you find it, though? Because this is what interests me, because it's not easy. It's not like a thing where, I mean, now it's more common, but when we were coming up, like stand-up wasn't talked about.
Yeah, I think either a cousin or maybe an uncle showed me Saturday Night Live.
Okay.
And I saw Norm Macdonald. I watched a lot of old Norm Macdonald. He's my favorite comic. Yeah. Like, he literally, so I would watch Norm all the time, found out that he did stand-up. Didn't understand a lot of it because I was a kid, but I loved it. I just loved the idea of it. And then I think I saw Dane Cook, and I was like, this is insane.
That was mine, too.
Yeah,
because we're about the same age.
Exactly.
So it was The Harmful of Swallowed. When that came out, we burned it, and we were passing it around.
Crazy.
The Kool-Aid Man bit. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I was always I was always like a punk rock kid. You know, when I was young, I was always going to like hardcore shows, punk rock shows downtown Jacksonville all the time. So that kind of.
Did you get into that through family as well, or was that something that you found?
That was like I found that through like through just like being around like in school and like wanting to skateboard, and then when you go start skateboarding, you kind of fall into like, oh, what kind of music is skateboarders listening to, and then you do that. I listened to Blink-182 probably. Cheshire Cat or Dude Ranch was the first album that I listened to.
Same. I got into inline skating, and it was the same thing as Slipknot, Bad Religion, NoFX, all that kind of stuff.
And that's how you find it. And then kind of from there, it was like, okay, I love this. And then it kind of went to different bands and stuff. And then I was going to Warped Tour when I was way too young to be going to Warped Tour. I was probably 12.
That's a big thing in Florida. We have a lot of concerts. Rockville, Warped Tour. They got a lot of like rock stuff going on.
Warped Tour was great, dude. It was so much fun. So I got into that. So I've always had the kind of DIY mindset of like going to small shows at small shitty venues downtown Jacksonville. Shout out the Imperial downtown Jacksonville. No longer exists. It's not there anymore. So much fun. Was so much fun. But yeah, so I was always into that, and it kind of got me. Once I saw comedy, I toured with bands. I was always like kind of a creative in that way, and so I didn't know how to do stand up though. Like I didn't know how do you get into it, right?
Yeah.
How do you find it?
Yeah.
So I ended up finding the Comedy Zone in Jacksonville. Did their terrible workshop.
We've talked about it on here before.
Yeah.
Because whenever I have guests on, most people in New York are transplants, so it's always like, oh, in your scene. Normally there's a club, and then I always ask the question, is it local versus the club, or is it local and the club?
Yes, exactly.
Because for us, it was local versus the club.
Yep.
And it's a versus a lot more times than you would think.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I guess, I mean, I've always looked at it as like corporate versus, the working man in a way, right? For
Punk
me.
rock,
so that's always how it's been. So like, though I was kind of floating between both. So
you did the class?
I did the class, and I got.
And how old are you at this point? This is 2012?
Yeah.
So you're in your 20s.
I'm in my probably early 20s. I
Yeah.
guess. I don't know math, but
but
early 20s.
The reason I'm interested is because you kind of just in a nutshell talked about like going from like skating to rock to now I'm doing comedy, which is very succinct, and I appreciate, because sometimes I have guests on the show and then we'll be like 45 minutes in and I'm like, we still don't know how you got into stand-up.
We got to cut the fat, dog. That's it. That's
what it's about, baby.
I took that Comedy Zone class. I know to cut the fat, all right? Fred Posen taught me that. You can bleep his name. No, just kidding. We'll give him credit.
Yeah, he doesn't own it anymore.
Yeah, he doesn't own it.
So then you take the class, and then are you getting spots when you take the class?
So the way they did it is you do like a graduation. So the first time I ever did stand-up was not there. The first time I ever did stand-up was at the Norm. Do you remember this?
No.
Okay. So the Norm was it was like a lesbian bar.
Okay.
And our good friend Chris Buck was running an open mic that ended up moving and becoming what Rain Dogs is now.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, because I came into the scene in 13. That's when I had moved to Jacksonville.
So that's probably when it switched.
So I went over to Rain Dogs when it like first became like Rain. We were still doing out in the front, and like it had just started. Like it was only a year or two in at Rain Dogs.
Yeah, exactly. So when I started, the first person I met in comedy outside of the Comedy Zone class was Chris Buck, and I went to his open mic. I just showed up, and he's like, "Yeah, you could do 5 minutes, whatever."
Yeah,
it was
how he is.
0 people in the crowd,
of course.
Like I think 2 people at the bar, and I'm on stage, and I'm like, hell yeah, I'm doing stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
This is what this is, right? And I go up, and I'm doing my first set. My jokes are obviously terrible. I'm nothing good. I think I'm killing, but I'm not. and then
I remember that feeling. You get a couple of chuckles, and
you
you're
get this is
watch out.
I'm Dane Cook.
Kids and open mics will say, like, look out for the Netflix special, and I'm like, bro.
Yeah, you don't even know. But so I'm doing my set. About halfway through my 5 minutes, a drag queen busts through the door, loudly singing, and has a jean skirt on with a bunch of dildos hanging out of it, and like a wig, so like fake pubes, and like just stands on a table and just starts singing during my set. Wow. Halfway through my set, and I was like, "This is what comedy is." And I loved it.
You loved it.
And I could.
Yeah, because you were probably like, let's fucking go.
This is it. Like, this is everything. Like, this is stand-up, and I love it. Like, that's what. So I've, like, pandemic times got tough. I stopped doing comedy for a while. I did the wrestling for a while. But I found that I think I need comedy more than I actually want to now. You know what I mean? Like, I'm addicted to it in a way that's, like, I'm anxious without it.
It's weird. If I go 2 days without doing something related to comedy, be it a hang or a show or a set or a mic, I get antsy, like real antsy. And it sucks because, like you said, like there are so many nights where I get off of work and I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna go home. But because of where my restaurant is, you've been there, you've seen it. It's like, but I could just walk 1 block the other way and go to the club.
That's it. Even if it's just to be in that environment.
Yeah, just be around it. And then you end up getting home at like 1:30 in the morning, and I'm like, I wanted to wake up early tomorrow, but it's like I can't not do it. Yeah. So with you, when you do the Comedy Zone class, how does the graduation show go?
The graduation show went well.
Is it a bringer or is it just
it is. It's not. I mean, it's not. I guess technically it would be considered that because you are bringing people, but it's not a requirement, right?
Yeah.
So,
but you bring people because you want them to see it. Yeah.
So you bring people. The room is filled with a crowd that's there to support everyone that's on the show. So
that's how the industry room is.
So
here.
It went good, right? I did well. I had a good set. I was already in my mind. I was hardened. I was road hardened because I had this one set, right? So I'm like, I'm ready for anything. Right? So I'm here. You know,
to be honest with you though, that is a pretty big impact because I've seen people at open mics where I'll like go to open a plastic bag to eat food and they get like totally thrown off, and you're like,
you can't.
You've been doing this for a year. What is happening?
Yeah, it did teach me I had some hard lessons in comedy with that kind of stuff too, but it did teach me like to kind of go with like whatever happens in the room is going to happen, right? So
it's happening, so just go with it.
But I have had situations where I've gotten mad at the crowd, drunk people or whatever, and started situations that shouldn't have happened, at Ginger's.
Fights, maybe?
Close.
Ginger's.
Yeah.
Ah, that was a deep pull.
Yeah.
So you do the class, it goes well. Because, like you said, it's very supportive. Those are the best rooms, too. And I tell people that, I think we were talking about it, or I was talking to someone at work about it. They're like, when's the best time to go see comedy, like if you live in New York? And I always say, go during the week, man. Because those are always people who are going to see comedy because they want to see comedy for the most part.
Yeah.
On the weekends, you get Bridge and Tunnel, you get all these drunk frat kids or finance bros who are like, Mark Norman, comedy. And then they just talk through everyone else's set. And, like, no shade to Mark. I'm just saying that because he's super popular.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where you'll have 5 other comics who are all good in their own right, but they're just like talking through it because they just came to see Mark. So I tell people all the time, go during the week if you want to see and those are supportive rooms. Whereas we've both been in rooms where it's like, oh, nobody fucking cares.
Yeah, because you go to the room. I mean, you go to rooms where it's like, I mean, I still do them now to some
fucking
point.
Me too.
Where you're like
ambush comedy or something.
Yeah, you're in the room and it's like, oh, nobody wants to do this.
Yeah.
Nobody wants comedy right now.
I did a show, and I've talked about it on this before, so listeners forgive me, but I did a show in Philadelphia, and I'll give you the abridged version. The owner to the club, it's not there anymore. It was called Jester Castle. He sold 200 tickets to the African American Professional Women's Association of Philadelphia for me and Matt Fulcheron.
Oh, hell yeah.
So Matt calls him, and he goes, hey, man, listen, this is more of a corporate gig. Since they bought all the tickets, you should let them pick the comic. And he's like, yeah, don't worry, I'll take care of it. We show up. He didn't do anything. It was the same thing. He booked 5 straight white guys as the comedies. But this is the thing. The women didn't know what it was because the African Americans Professional Men's Association bought them the tickets.
Oh boy!
So there's a DJ on stage. They're all drinking, having a good time, eating food, and then the host, O.J. Simpson, who's been on this, or Jay Simpson, he goes by his Twitter.
I was about to say, wait, excuse me.
His Instagram handle is O.J. Simpson, so I always just say it like that.
Caught me off guard there. I was like,
no,
that's
but
wild.
so
That's
Jay
wild.
goes up to host, and one of the women goes, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" And he goes, "Oh, we're about to do stand up." She goes, "Oh, this is supposed to be a comedy show?"
Oh.
And so we've been in those situations where you're like, "Oh, nobody even wants to see stand up."
I've had that.
Yeah, and you're like, "Oh, this is going to be painful."
I've had that. I've had it where people don't want to see stand up at a comedy club.
Yeah.
Where it's like, so I would go on the road with a couple people, and we would do like, it's not famous people or people who are even making it's like regional comics, right? So it's like,
because we know a lot of those guys who like make their living touring the Southeast,
small clubs. So I would do the comedy zones in like
Charlotte and stuff like that.
But I would even go to like Johnson City, Tennessee.
Okay.
And
just driving yourself the whole way up.
Yeah. And I would go there, and it's in their tiny conference room in their tiny hotel, and there's 7 people there, and they're just guests of the hotel that wandered by, right? And then I go up, and I'm doing whatever whatever the jokes were at the time.
If you can't tell, or if you're listening, Roger's got a lot of tattoos, big beard, piercing, so you can imagine what the
you could imagine what they think of me when they see me too.
Right, when you walk up, they're like, "Is this a punk rock show? What are we doing?"
I've got a look that doesn't work for me too, because like nobody likes it.
Amen.
Nobody likes my look. Like
I mean, I have the same thing, just living in New York, the way I look.
I look like a white supremacist, but I'm not. I'm a libtard, as they'd say.
Yeah.
I am white trash. But I don't like. I don't have a look that anybody's comfortable with.
Yeah,
like
you carry yourself. If anyone gets to know you, this is why we became fast friends. Is because anyone who gets to know, and we were only like around each other for that like year and a half, and then I relapsed and completely left the scene.
Yeah,
but
you just went away.
Yeah, I was going to Rain Dogs every Monday, and then just boom, I was gone. And then I remember I would text Buck at like 2 a.m. and be like, I got to get back on stage, man. And he's like, we're there every Monday. Whenever you want to come back.
We're always there.
But it's one of those things where you and I became fast friends because you are like an empathetic guy. You're easy to talk to. You understand. And it is interesting because I go through a lot of it now being a bigger guy, especially in New York, Like you walk on stage and there are people in the crowd who immediately are like, I don't give a shit what this person's going to say. I hate them. And for you, having the tattoos
battle.
and the piercings, it's probably even worse.
It's an uphill battle. It's a lot of self-deprecating myself about, like I always have to start my sets talking about addressing something like that. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
100%.
In some way, because otherwise they're
I've got the whole bit about like, it doesn't matter how much you look like a cop. They're not going to believe you.
Exactly.
Which is, and everyone's like, oh, he gets it. He knows.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
so
same style.
You just have to watch. I could just imagine you getting on, because I've seen it before where everyone's like, and then you start talking and they're like, oh, okay.
I'm like, I look how I look, and I definitely, especially when I like shave my head, it's bad. Like it's bad. Like me walking down the street
into Walmart, getting high fives and stuff for
dude,
the wrong reasons.
It's not good. It's not good. If somebody in a Trump shirt tries to, I'm like, no,
no.
We're not on the same team, brother. But
as Will Blaylock would say, we're not friends.
Yeah, we're not friends. So, but yeah, it's like I look like that though. So people do like make assumptions about me based on that, but I do have to kind of ease them into the comedy, right? So I do think that like being us, right?
Yeah.
Being guys like us looking the way we do, it is an interesting thing in comedies. For sure.
Yeah, and especially too because, and we're gonna get into it because I want to talk about the wrestling thing.
Yeah.
I want to get back to that, but like. Just being bigger, because like I and nobody wants to hear, especially after everything that's happened in the last couple of weeks, nobody wants to hear like two white guys be like, "Oh, poor me," as your wife rolls her eyes on the couch.
Listen, dude,
but it is interesting because it's one of those things where it's like I almost get penalized for like going to the gym and taking care of myself by other comedians.
Yeah,
because they'll be like, "Oh, you think you're like a big like hot shot," and it's like. No, I have severe depression and anxiety, and if I don't work out, I want to kill myself. Like
maybe I should try to work out.
It has nothing to do with me thinking I'm better than anybody.
I have depression and anxiety and do nothing about it. Like I do nothing.
I have to get on stage, and then I have to go to the gym. Yeah. Like last night, I didn't go to bed till like 3:30, but I had to be up at 8 because I had to go to the gym before you guys came over. Right. And it's just one of those things where it's like I don't do it because, to your point, I'm not the broy bro. Yeah. Like I hate.
You do
that.
look like that. Though.
I do.
You do look like.
And people at work will be like, "Dude, you see the tits on 32?" And I'm like, "Don't
talk to me."
I was like I was raised by women. I respect women. Someone asked me the other day. I went into this is going to be a shot, but I went into the stand, and someone goes, "Oh, you're not in Vegas for Legion of Skanks?" And I looked right at him. I go, "Nah, I really respect women."
Yeah.
And then everyone just started laughing, but I was just like, "Yeah, it's not really my scene, man."
It is. It's an interesting,
but immediately
dynamic.
got defaulted to that just because of the beard and the hair.
Yeah, I mean, you do look like a bro. I mean, and you played football, so there is that aspect of it too. I think we both look like different versions of terrible white guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is interesting, like that's
even though we try to be like as empathetic as possible.
As liberal as they come, I try so hard. I hate police officers. Like I do it all.
I've been arrested 8 times.
I do
dude.
it all. I'm all the way. But like I look like I'm just like racist.
Blue lives matter.
Shit,
yeah,
dude. Like I look like such a racist piece of shit.
Well, speaking of like being a bigger guy and stuff, we were talking about wrestling. So so you started comedy in 12. What year did you move to Orlando?
I moved to Orlando. It will go the long story short. I did a short stint in New York, and we know the story.
Yeah.
It went.
The listeners know it too because I've talked about it on the show. Yeah,
right.
This is the Roger that we've talked about, who is the canary in the coal mine, as it were, for everyone moving to a place.
Lessons learned. So we did that
because that was a fucked up thing.
It was bad. It was really bad
to show up and then just be like. Fuck.
Yeah. So we did
that. I guess
I'll
get in my car and go home.
I guess it's time to go. But yeah, so that happened, and then so I ended up not wanting to go back to Jack's because that feels like complete defeat, right? And
100%.
Everything's ruined, so
I lived here for 6. I don't mean to interrupt you, but to that point, I lived here for 6 months, and then I came home and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna do like a homecoming show." And I took pictures of the Jacksonville airport, and I was like, "I'm back" on my Instagram stories. I got at least 12 messages like, "New York didn't work out. That's too bad you're home.
Damn,
so
bummer,
sorry."
Dude.
Yeah,
Bummer.
And I was like, "I just came back to visit my grandma, guys."
It's like, you're gonna kill yourself like Roger. Just kidding, no.
You're gonna disappear.
Yeah, dude. So I was like, I physically can't go back. So we went back just for a short time, lived with my dad. I contacted no one. I just stayed
invisible,
down low. And I was like, I was like, it's time to, let's move somewhere. So we chose Orlando. I was like, maybe I'll try wrestling. I love wrestling. Maybe I'll try it. I think I'm the kind of person who has just enough delusion to think I can do anything.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. I should
That's
probably
why we're sitting here, man.
That. Yeah, I should probably not do that. But I have enough delusion to believe I can do anything. So I went to, I called, or I sent an email to the Team 3D Academy, which is the Dudley Boys School, and sent my number. My girlfriend at the time was also like, I think I could do it too. That'd be fun. She's very athletic. She's actually making it in wrestling right now, which is troubling. But we went to, I sent the email and I get a call and it's like, is this Roger? I'm like, yeah. He's like, this is Bubba Ray Dudley.
Holy shit.
Like, what the fuck? And he's like, you want to do this shit? He's like, we'll work out a payment plan. Just get down here. We'll do it.
So they were very accommodating as far as all that stuff goes. Yeah.
So then we go. We're like, all right, let's move. So we move. We find an apartment. We go to the training. It is hard as fuck.
Yeah, I can imagine.
So they have a trainer who is a like a personal trainer type, body type trainer, right? Mm-hmm. Outside of the wrestling. And his name was Apache Dan Carr. And nobody probably knows that name, but he is the co-creator of American Gladiator.
Oh, shit.
And he looks like Patches O'Houlihan from Dodgeball. He's sitting in a chair. He's out of shape. He got big arms, but he's like out of shape, and he's just yelling at you.
Yeah.
Like, you got to do this. You got to do that. You know, just yelling at you. And they do this thing called a ring of fire that you have to do to pass to the next level. And you have to do it's absolutely insane. Everybody throws up during and after the ring of fire. It's just like this gauntlet of things. Like you're doing like box jumps, then you're rolling into the ring, then you're doing like 45-pound plates over your head while doing lunges to all four corners, and then back, and then backwards all the way around, and then you have to run the ropes, and then you have to do dives, and then you have to do all like it's insane. It's like too much. Like
How long are you there before you have to do the gauntlet, like the ring of fire?
Probably a month.
Okay, so you've been training.
Yeah. But I'm not an athlete.
Yeah.
Like I'm not athletic at all. I'm a character. Like I can play a character.
Yeah.
By any means, but I am not an athlete. I don't run good. Like I look like an asshole when I run. Like it's crazy.
It is weird. I remember when we used to watch game film or like practice tape and stuff. Like, who's that fucking? Oh, that's me.
Oh fuck. Yeah. That's
like, oh yeah, I'm just here to hit people. I'm not here to like catch the ball and run with
100%. So the story does take another turn. So I was training there, and then my ex is training there as well. Find out she's cheating on me with a guy in the class.
Oof.
So that's awkward now.
That's that is awkward.
That becomes awkward. And this guy,
that is super awkward.
The guy she's cheating with is not. Like,
it's not.
It sucks.
I have a feeling I know where you're going.
It sucks because so there's two parts to this. She cheated with a guy, and then she started dating another guy in the class after we broke up.
Okay,
but the guy she cheated with, when you get cheated on, you want to be able to be like, I'm gonna kick that guy's ass.
Yeah,
there is no way I was kicking this guy's ass. This guy was a monster.
Just to have it in your head, like that makes sense. Like that checks out.
And it wasn't even that though either. He was just like a big dude.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't, I wouldn't say he was attractive in any way or anything like that. He wasn't really making it in wrestling. He didn't have money. It was nothing like that. There was no reasons other than, I don't know, I guess, whatever it is, whatever happened.
Whatever happened, yeah. So, because I've had it both, I've been cheated on a lot. I've had it both ways where like I've seen it and I go, yeah, I get it. And then other times where you're like, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
Yeah. It sucks. So I'm like, my instinct always coming up, like I said, growing up punk rock, I'm like, I'll fight anybody at any time, right? I'm ready to fight. And then I'm like,
I'll punch your ticket.
I'm going to lose this fight.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck. So, you know what I mean? Like, that's
because in your head, this was the same thing when all the times I went to jail, where you're like, well, I have to fight this person. And then sometimes you get in there and you're like, yeah, no problem. Then other times you're like, God damn it, man.
So I just accepted defeat.
So you didn't fight him?
I didn't fight him.
You didn't meet him in the parking lot like, yo.
I didn't do it because another thing happened.
Manson Gray is here.
Exactly. Manson didn't exist yet, but there was another thing happened right after that. That dude got
So when you found out, you broke up immediately?
Yeah. And then I ended up just like, well, fuck, I can't stay here. I can't go to this school anymore because she was excelling. She's such an athlete. She's great. So she was really excelling. So I was like, I guess I'm gonna go.
Yeah.
So I went to
You
Jacksonville.
really admitted defeat.
I did. No, I took defeat.
You were like, yeah, coach, I'm out.
This was loss after loss for me. This was the New York loss into the wrestling loss. I was taking L's left and right in my life.
Nothing but W's from here, baby.
Left and right, just L, right? So I go back to Jacksonville and I find a small wrestling promotion called...
Yeah, because when you came back, you didn't get right back into comedy.
I found a small wrestling promotion called Continental Championship Wrestling, which was an old school territory back in the day.
Yeah.
So real Southern old school wrestling. Got in, became
do deals with a handshake kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Became a character. That's where I became the character Manson Gray. Loved it because I had a lot of freedom there to do because I was already basically trained in wrestling for the most part. I just needed to now learn in match, in ring stuff, right? So that's kind of like get better, like you do on comedy. Get on stage, do the thing. It was the same thing.
And you fed into this character of this darker,
exactly.
It's a heel for those of you
I was
listening.
I was a dark heel. The character debuted.
You had the mask and everything. Dude, it was nuts.
Sick. It was sick.
Yeah. The upside down cross on the mask.
The character debuted by I was just cutting promos over their shows. It would just pop in. You would see a person in a mask calling out all these baby faces in the company.
Yeah.
For those who don't know wrestling, babyface, good guy, heel, bad guy, right? So I was calling out their top babyface, right? So no one knew who it was. And then come their biggest show of the year, they have a big show every year called Wrestle Bash. It's always huge. It sells out.
When you say sells out, what kind of venue are we talking about? A couple hundred people, a couple thousand people?
I'd probably say 800 to 1,000.
Okay, that's a big room
on the big ones.
Yeah.
So
much like stand up, where it's like that's a lot of people.
It's something. So the biggest show is where the goal is for us to have our match at the biggest show. Mm-hmm. So spoiler alert, wrestling isn't real to all the fans out there. So we're
the hits are real, the bumps are real.
The bumps are real.
The storylines are real.
Yeah, the bumps are absolutely real. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
But
you got a couple surgeries to prove it.
I got some stories. But so they have a second biggest show, which is not as big, but this babyface was wrestling for defending his title on this show.
Mm-hmm. The smaller show.
Probably 500.
Yeah.
Whatever. And so I have been a referee the entire time building up to this. No one knows that that's Manson Gray.
Oh, because you're reffing with,
all they've seen is the mask on camera calling these people out. So I'm reffing this match. Right before the finish of the match, I throw a fireball in this guy's face, burn the side of his face. I pull out the mask, reveal who I am.
Yeah.
Steal the championship belt. We're off.
Yeah.
We're off to the races.
That's a
now.
good cut, man. That is
fun.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Especially the whole playing, and obviously this was all pre-planned, but the playing the ref the whole time.
And I reffed for I was probably cutting promos for months reffing. No one had any
and in your mind,
the
because
crowd was shocked.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But in your mind, are you cool with doing the ref thing because you're like, this is going to pay off?
I knew what it was. I mean, we had the story planned out months in advance, right?
But you're not fuck, let's get a move on it. You're just I know.
No, because I am someone who believes that the juice is worth the squeeze.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. So
100%,
I was very much like, let's ride this out.
This is going to be awesome.
It's good when it pops, when the moment pops off. The crowd is going to lose their mind, and they did.
Yeah,
I had at one point at these shows, they had to remove somebody who threatened to kill me, shoot me,
you did
because we're doing this is the most beloved babyface in this company, and we're doing shows in front of people from the South.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know what I'm implying when I say that.
100%.
Like, not the most educated people.
Yeah.
So so
and your whole thing was like not just heel, but like a true heel, like in everyday life, like
that
anti-God, anti-Christianity.
All of that.
Yeah,
Upside
like
down
it was
cross.
all.
My
Yeah.
mask was made out of pages of Revelations from the Bible, cut up and burned. That's how like if you haven't been to the South really care about the Bible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They won't read it, but they care about it.
They care about it. They will not read it, but they do care about it. They cherish it. So the fact that I ripped pages out, burned them, like they did not like that very much. So
this is a fucking great character, by the way.
Oh, it was.
I've always been behind it.
It was killer. It was so much fun. So
when the Instagram account first came out, I was like, let's fucking go.
Yeah. No, it was fun. So I had so much fun with it. But
what happened at the big match?
So the big match, we get there. It's him versus I for the title, and I set the stipulation of a no disqualification, lights out match is what it's called. So the company claims, this is storyline, of course, but they claim we're not responsible for anything that happens during this match. Mm-hmm. Like, this is a grudge match. These two guys hate each other, and we're going to let them have the space to do what they want to do. So we had a grudge match where he came to the ring first. I scripted it perfectly in terms of, like, he wears all white, I wear all black.
Yeah.
Like, good versus evil. This is a story we're telling. We had a build-up video that I created because I went to film school, so I do have, like, a lot of, like skills in terms of that. So I built a big
the editing
promo package. The promo package was a bunch of highlights of us in our feud build up to the song The Sound of Silence, but the Disturbed version. So it was like the sick, like when that played before the match, because they played it before the match, right before we started, it got a standing ovation.
Oh shit.
Like
were you like, that's my
I was
thing.
like, yeah, I did that. Like that's sick. But so we go, the match starts. He comes out first. I come to the ring. I make my big entrance. I look menacing. Mm-hmm. Immediately, he dives out of the ring on top of me. We're going. We are beating the shit out of each other. Like, really. Like, I mean, this is where it's real because, like, we talked about it beforehand, and I was like,
are you close enough to where, like, you trust him in this moment?
Yes.
Okay.
And you kind of have to.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, you kind of have to trust that you're going to have each other's back out there because it's very dangerous what we're doing.
Yeah.
And we were taking it.
Well, because you're not small either. Like, you get thrown the wrong, and I'm assuming he's not either. You get thrown the wrong way. Someone could really hurt themselves.
Yeah, exactly. And so we're taking, like, the big bumps into, like, the guardrail. We're taking them outside of the ring onto the hard floor. Like, we're doing it all, right?
Yeah.
The climax of the match, to fast forward, he hits me with a couple chair shots. I take over, take it from him, hit him with a couple chair shots. I wear like a weight belt, you know. I take off the weight belt, beat him with it.
Little Hollywood Hogan versus Goldberg style.
Exactly. Beat him with the belt, right? At one point, he comes back, knocks the belt out of my hand. We race for it. He steps on it before I can grab it, and then I'm like looking up at him, you know, and he then starts wailing on me with the belt. The problem is, accidentally, he didn't realize he was hitting me with the buckle side of the belt. Oof. Not the leather side of the belt, the buckle side of the belt. So now I'm getting beat with a belt buckle, just like huge, and it's a weight belt, so it's like a huge metal buckle. So I'm just getting ripped apart by a buckle in front of 800 people or whatever. You know what I mean? So I'm just like, I have to take it at this point because
you can't stop.
The show must go on. So I'm trying to signal to him like, dog, flip the fucking
belt around. Yeah, trying to give him like a, hey.
Yeah. So the climax is then I take over again and I get.
I'm assuming you're both all bloody at this point.
Yeah, there was a lot of blood. I get thumbtacks out, pour the thumbtacks in the ring. I go to slam him on it. He reverses it, slams me on the thumbtacks. I am covered back, all completely thumbtacks in my body, all over my body, in my hand, just completely flat, like all over the place. And then he does his finishing move into the thumbtacks and pins me, and I lost. And that was it, you know. Babyface wins, heel loses, the crowd cheers.
Yeah,
we leave him happy, right? I'm bleeding. I have people pulling thumbtacks out of my back. I just collapse in the back. Like when it's over.
So you like get to the back and then you're just like
collapse. I can't even move. It hurts because you don't feel any of it when you're out there.
Yeah, because it
might be the same with football. You're just your adrenaline's going. You don't feel it. But
there's so many times I woke up the next day like I didn't realize that happened. Yeah,
what happened? So that happened, and then I did more matches, after that with other people and stuff, and then eventually tore my ACL.
Did you tear your ACL training or in the ring?
In the ring.
Did you finish the match?
Yeah, I had to tell the guy to slam me and do your finisher, because at first I thought it was fine. I thought it would be fine.
Because the ACL, like the MCL, is weird. Where it's
I blacked out. It hurt. It hurt.
Yeah.
It was like a pop, and it hurt really bad.
But you can still walk in a straight line. It's the moving.
So I couldn't balance on it at all.
Yeah.
I could hold no weight to it because mine ripped. My ACL ripped completely.
Oh,
off
okay,
of the
yeah.
bone. Like my ACL was gone.
So you were just like, hey, let's
So
finish.
I try to get up, and I'm like, I can't stand. So I'm just like, you got to slam me and end it. So he picks me up over his head, just slams me full force and pins me. I'm like dead. But yeah, we got out of it. But yeah, so I tore the ACL, and then that's when I was pretty much done with wrestling. Not because I wanted to be necessarily, but because I realized that just the rehab is so hard for coming back from that.
Well, this is a small company. This isn't like an NFL team where they have the best doctors and all the best facilities. It's like
the rehab was so hard, and also I'm like it was to the point. I mean, I'm 36 now, At that point, I was like, I'm getting too old for this. I really am. I love it, but how long am I going to be able to fucking take thumbtacks to the back and,
Yeah.
So I did a couple more matches after the ACL because I wanted to finish it my way, I guess. The last match I did was a dog collar match in a barn somewhere in Alabama.
Fuck yeah.
Some shitty town in Alabama where me and my opponent were tied together with a chain between our necks.
Why wouldn't you be?
Yeah, why not, right? This makes perfect sense, right? So dog collars around our neck, metal chain, and then we're just beating each other with a chain and beating the shit out of each other. And then we did three matches, and it culminated with the dog collar match. And then that was it. That's where after the dog collar match, I was like, I'm good. I think I'm good.
After that match, in your head, were you like, I'm going to get back into comedy? Because like we said earlier, you were kind of gone for a while, and then when you came back, because we talked about this at the AEW thing. You were telling me about the ACL and wrestling and stuff like that, and at that point, I just thought that you had moved on to something else from comedy.
I was so burnt out on comedy, I think in general, because this was all, we're talking 2016, 2017. This was Trump's first term.
Yeah.
Where nothing felt funny anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
Really, nothing felt funny to me anymore, and everybody was doing the exact kind of comedy that we're about to see again right now. You know what I'm talking.
I know what you mean, Roger. It's the exact same thing.
Yeah, that's it. So it's just it was so much of that, and I was just like, nobody's funny. I'm not inspired. I had nothing, right? So I did write. I wrote a cartoon that I had a small deal with Adult Swim.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, but they did nothing with it. They just kept the rights to it for a year, and then they didn't do anything with it. So they didn't pay me enough either. I was an idiot.
They'll always get you, especially the first time out. You're like, boy, oh boy, and then you're like, God damn it.
But I was that was the only thing that I was focused on, and then I was just kind of done. Once that didn't go anywhere, it was like I said, all L's for quite some time for me. And then I was doing that, and I was trying to find things that kind of helped me because I got diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I was on medication. I had all this anxiety, all this depression, all this crazy stuff, and so I was trying to find something to help me. So I went through all kinds of trying hobbies and trying just different things.
Yeah.
And then eventually my wife was like, why aren't you doing comedy? It's the only thing you love.
Aww.
Why aren't you doing comedy? And I was like, I just can't. I hate it. I had a relationship with her where I was like, I hate it now. I hate what it is. I hate the people. I hate all of it. And then I was like, all right, I'll try it. I tried it and I haven't looked back since.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I've just been full steam ahead back into it. Love it again. Coming here, just like hanging out with you and hanging out, being around, and
going to the olive tree and hanging out
all
at
of
the
it, just
stand
feeling inspired again, you know, like is nice. So I've been like full speed ahead, you know, like really, really proud of what I'm putting out. Really proud of
because
the comedy.
it was. I remember seeing you post a comedy clip, like I guess it was 6 months or a year ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh shit, he's back.
He's back. Yeah.
Because you had built a lot of relationships too, and we've talked about this off mic, and we won't name the people, but you had built some relationships even before you left comedy and got into wrestling, like big now, especially now, huge names.
Yeah.
And so it was one of those things where you came back, and we were like, okay, cool. Because I had a similar experience, and I've told this on the podcast before though, but. Because I'm also diagnosed bipolar too. And when I got sober, I was like, if it's just meetings every day, working 2 jobs and going to the gym, I was like, you can have it back. Like, I'm going to check out. Yeah. Which isn't an idle threat as someone who's been 5150'd and stuff like that. I was just like, it's that whole thing where it's like, I can't see this life I don't want anymore.
It's hard because you're looking at your life and it's like, you're the same as me. We're creatives. We need something, right? And when you're looking at just day job, go home at night, go to bed, day job, I would rather kill my fucking self.
And that
you know
was,
what I mean?
That's honestly the way I was thinking too. And then it was my sponsor who was like, hey, don't you really love stand-up? Why don't you get back into that?
That's scary though, especially on your end. That would be scary because of even the perception of what comedy is, right?
Yeah, and but it was one of those things where my bottom was so bad where it was like, I'm not.
Yeah, I can't go.
I'm not going.
I can't go back.
Like I had no desire to like go back to drink. And then same thing. I went to Rain Dogs. I felt super weird because Buck was like, where you been?
Yeah.
And you have to kind of go with your tail. And Marcus and Christina Shriver was real big, but Marcus, to his credit, Marcus Crespo, who's been on the show a bunch, he started taking me out with him when I had no business going. Like I had been out of comedy for 3 years. I did like a couple open mics. He's like, hey, you're going to come feature for me. And I was just like,
it's perfect.
All right, here we go. And within 3 years, I was living in New York City.
Sometimes that's all you need. You know, just that person to help you. But for me, it was just like, I'm also like, and this is something that I struggle with even to this day, I'm socially uncomfortable.
Yep.
I'm very comfortable on stage. I love that. I'm very comfortable when I get to know comedians and stuff like that. But the meeting, like, hey, I'm Roger. Even the other night when you were introducing me to people, I feel so uncomfortable. Yep. I need that. Like, I need you to introduce me to people. I need people to do that for me. But if I had to just walk up and be like, hi,
I won't do it.
You know, yeah,
it's so hard. I have an in now being at the restaurant because we get a lot of comedians in there, and they'll put them in my section on purpose. So I'm forced to talk to them. Yeah. And then after a couple of interactions, it kind of breaks the ice. But that whole, like, I say it all the time. If I'm just sitting in a room and there's people I kind of know but don't really know, I'll just walk out of the room. And I've done that a million times. I've walked into the stand, looked around, and been like, nope, and walked right back out. Yeah. But if someone is like, hey, sit at the table, this is my friend Brennan, and then we sit there for a couple of beats, then I start to get more comfortable because you're like, oh, we're just all comedians.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a lot of that for me. I'm very socially awkward, so I struggle with that. That's gonna be a struggle for me when I move here. That's gonna be a big struggle for me. But I know that I know enough people that, like you and other people that I have here that are friends.
So much bigger names than me.
Yeah. But those are people that can introduce me to other people and stuff like that, which is great. I need that, So
there are some weird things though. Speaking about just the political landscape and stuff, where you'll meet someone and you're like, man, they were really cool to me. They were super nice, and then you'll tell a friend and be like, you'll never believe who I met, and then you say the name and they're like, do you not use Google? That's like the worst person in the world. And you're like, fuck. I've had that happen a couple times where I've talked to people back home and I'll be like, guess who I'm going to get on the podcast? And I tell them and they're like, you can't.
Brennan's like, guess who? I'm getting Harvey Weinstein on the podcast.
Cosby said he'd do it.
Yeah. I got Harvey Weinstein waiting to do and everyone's like, have you not?
You don't read the news? Yeah. So let's talk about it, because you are not, we'll get into some of the stories. We've touched on a lot of them already, but you're not a booze guy.
I'm not a booze guy.
How did you find out that you weren't a booze guy? Was this a thing where like you grew up around it, or you tried it and you didn't like it?
I grew up around it,
yeah,
and I have fear of it.
Okay.
Because my entire family on my dad's side are mostly all alcoholics.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, so that monster is in me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I have to avoid it. And now I treat weed like an alcoholic does with booze. I'm addicted to weed. You know what I mean? So
So have you gotten like hammered before?
Oh,
like when was the first time you drank? I would assume during the skateboarding antics days in high school.
Yeah, I was young, and then after that I was straight edge.
Yeah.
You know.
Me too.
And
you did it, yeah.
Did that, and then after I grew out of that, you know, after I stopped being such a pussy.
Yeah.
Just kidding. After I grew out
My buddy who I was straight edge with in middle school just posted something really funny. It's like a throwaway T-shirt, but it's like in Indonesia, but it just says straight edge isn't cool anymore, and it's just some like homeless person on the street, and I'm like, yeah, that's about right.
I have 3 X's tattooed inside my lip. That's how I'm such a bitch, you know. But
you're so cool.
I'm so fucking cool, dog. Like I'm the coolest motherfucker.
So then when did you try weed?
I tried weed early, so before being straight edge, and then didn't do it, and then came back to it. So I'd say I started smoking more consistently probably 16.
Okay.
You know.
So what was the difference for you? Like, and this is actually fascinating to me because growing up in a family where everyone likes to get after it, and I wouldn't label anyone in my family, as an alcoholic. One, because it's not my, like they teach us in the big book and AA and all this shit I'm not allowed to talk about. But they it's not for us. It's not for me to decide. But I grew up in a family where everyone liked to party, basically.
I have an uncle who is literally his liver and kidneys are all failing.
Yeah.
They're like, you just got to stop drinking. Like, just don't drink. And he's like, nah, fuck that.
Yeah.
And he drinks morning to night all day.
Just getting after it.
Just getting at. So when I say my family's alcoholics, I mean they go
have
hard.
Been diagnosed medically.
They are diagnosed. Yeah. Like alcohol is killing you, and they're like, yep.
Cool.
Good.
Checks out.
Good.
I do a lot of it. But that's the thing is like everyone in my family just kind of liked to party. And then when I got introduced to my ex-stepdad, I was like, oh, no, this destroys people. Because he was like full-blown DUIs, coming home screaming at people, kicking the shit out of it. And you're like, oh, this is actually bad. So I steered clear of it. I steered away from it for a long time. And then when I actually got drunk at like 17, 18, and all my anxiety went away, I was like, oh, this makes a lot more sense why everyone does this so much because it's kind of awesome. So for you, with the smoking weed, did that help with your depression and anxiety and all that stuff?
Yeah, so it helped with the anxiety a lot. The depression, what helps me it does. The weed does help a lot too, but the weed also lends to the creativity, which then helps the. Yeah,
it's a cycle. It
is a cycle.
It makes you more creative. You start to create, and then you feel better.
Then I feel better. Yeah, exactly. So that's my key. Yeah. So smoke weed, kids.
Yeah,
that's the lesson.
When you move to New York, it'll be okay.
Yeah, I know, dude.
I wanted to ask you because you had mentioned police chase, and when we talked about this, because you were like, oh, I don't really drink a lot, and I'm like, well, that's why we talk about drug stories and getting in trouble stories. So you had mentioned a firework police chase.
Okay, let me tell you
this?
Let me tell you about this. So this was when I was probably 16, 17 years old, right? Me and one of my good friends, Josh, we were riding through. We lived in a small town outside of Jacksonville called Callahan. Mm-hmm. Very small.
That's a very small town.
Very small town. Couple red lights, nothing to speak of. Very conservative Christian town. So we were bored all the time, so we did what kids do. We did hood rat shit.
Light shit on fire.
That's it. So we decided that we were going to be in his. He drove a Scion XB, the square boxy car.
Looks like a toaster.
Yeah, it looks like a toaster. We decided we were just going to drive around the neighborhood and just shoot fireworks, Roman candles out of the window at cars passing by.
At night.
Good. Just shooting.
It'd be a waste of a Roman candle if you did it at the end of the day.
Yeah. So we were doing that. He's lighting one out of the window, and it doesn't go off, and he's like, shit, it's a dud. He kind of throws it in my lap, and it starts going off.
Oh, shit.
So I take it, throw it. He grabs it, tosses it out the window. It flips. I see this in my head in slow motion this moment. It flips, and I no shit lands in a passing by car, sticks in the windshield wiper, and you see red lights. It's a cop. It was a cop car that is stuck.
Oh, my God. So you guys threw it out the window, and it landed on a cop car?
On a cop car. And
that's not good.
He turned on his lights, and my friend just
you think?
He just looks at me. My friend looks at me. He goes, shit. And I go, what do we do? He goes, I think we got to run.
What?
And I go, buckle up the seatbelt, and we're off. And he
and you guys aren't impaired at all. You were just
not
bored.
Impaired, just bored. So he punches it. We're swerving through traffic. The cops chasing us. We're going through. We go down all the neighborhoods. Like the key to getting away is find a dark area. Luckily, Callahan's full of them. We just got away. Like we were going probably 120 miles an hour, just
flying,
booking it, dude. Like flying down this 2-lane road, just like terrifying. We pull in, to a driveway, cut off the lights. Cop goes by. We're like, oh my God, he comes back by. We're like, oh my God, he's gonna find us. He's gonna find us.
You're freaking out.
He goes
in the
back
car.
by again. And then he's gone.
How does he not realize what kind of car he's looking for?
I know. Luckily, the driveway was long enough, I think, that he wasn't like...
Oh, he didn't turn
He wasn't like really, light searching.
Oh, yeah, I've been in that situation. I've gotten into a bar fight where I've hidden behind something, and you see the cop lights like go over, and you're like...
sitting there, ducked down,
and you,
like, oh my God,
and you're just like,
oh my God,
if they
we're
took
going to
one
jail.
step to the right, I'm fucked.
That's it. We're fucked.
But they just kept walking up and down the street, and you're like, you idiots.
Exactly. It was... insane, dude. Like, so that, I mean, we had a lot of run-ins like that kind of stuff because we were bored kids.
Yeah. Did you ever actually have to like confront the police? Like, did they ever catch you doing any of this shit?
We never got caught. So we did get confronted by police, but the other part of this is my friend Josh, his dad was a cop at one point. He wasn't anymore because he was a crooked cop who got fired. So that's a whole different story. But he but he was well known in the town. Yeah. So if Josh was around, most of the time, if we weren't doing anything too crazy, they'd be like, "Oh, you're little Jake's, you're Jake's little boy. You're good to go." Yeah. So
your dad got a bad beat. So get on out of here.
It's that. It's exactly that. Exactly that. So we would kind of get away with stuff, and that gave us more. It made us more bold.
Yeah.
Right. So one time we would go around. This is a good story. We would go around and, like hoodlums, we would, smash mailboxes and do the stupid thing like that. But during Christmas, we were like, oh, we're going to steal people's Christmas decorations.
Oh, shit.
And the Scions have the flat hatch on the back, right? Flat, just... So what we decided to do, I was like, I'm going to jump out. I'll start the Christmas lights off the car, hook it or off the top of the roof of the house, hook it into the back hatch, and then we'll just drive off. So we were just ripping people's Christmas lights off of their house, like just destroying property. So we're doing this all night. We're shooting BB guns at like the inflatable Santas. We're causing havoc in Callahan. It is fucked up. It's really, when you're an adult and you look back at it,
and you're like, oh, they paid $200 for that inflatable Santa.
That's fucked up. But when you're a kid, you're like, fuck them, like, exactly, right? So we do that all night. We come home.
Oh, so this is at night. So you're just, nobody knows.
Yeah, nobody knows, right? This is probably between the hours of, 9 and 10 o'clock. Everybody's, in that town. Nobody's out and about, right? So we go home, and on the 11 o'clock news when we get home is literally we walk in the door and Josh's mom is watching the news, and on the news it says it said the Grinches that stole Christmas in the small town of Callahan, and it's about us.
That's your first credit.
Yeah, with my first TV credit, right?
You're the Grinch that stole Christmas.
Yeah, I'm the Grinch that stole Christmas. So, and his mom's like, "Can you believe this?" And we're like, "Oh my God, it's so bad." Like,
that is the fun part, is being like, what?
Yeah, no way. Who would do
That's crazy.
Who would do such a thing? Don't go look in the trunk of the car and see all the Christmas decorations that we have.
So what ended up happening?
We ditched the...
You just ditched them? Just got rid of them?
Got away with it. We ditched the body and got away with it.
You sent me when you sent me the list of stories, you literally said white trash Christmas decorations, and I was just like, oh, this has got to be that.
Yeah, because we're white trash kids doing white trash kids thing. Yeah. Made it to the news. Like,
that's was a part of you like, we made the news, man.
Yeah, no, it was
like fist bumping Josh.
We still talk about it to this day. Like I talk to him sometimes. Like we'll talk on the phone or whatever, and he's like, "You remember that time?" And I'm like, "Yeah, dude." Like we have so many stories like that where it's just like, "You remember that shit we did? That was so ridiculous." Like
it is a weird thing too when you get older, because like we're the same age. I'm 36, and when I talk to Tracy, because she's never seen me drunk, she's never seen that person. So it is weird to be like, yeah, this one time I like headbutted a cop, like who was trying to arrest me. She's like, yeah, exactly. It's like, what?
Yeah.
And I'll be like, or like I'll talk to friends from back in college. I'm like, hey, you guys remember the time? And they're like, yeah, we remember.
Yeah, my wife is much younger than me. She's
good on you, kiddo.
9 years younger than me. Not 9 years old. She's 9 years younger than me.
It's funny because she's sitting right there.
I know. I paused it. I was like 9. But no, she's younger than me. So she grew up very differently. She grew up richer, and I grew up quite poor. Right?
Yeah.
So we have quite the divide.
Me and Tracy as well. Yeah, where it's like
quite the divide.
It's not even for us. It's not even a socioeconomic thing because my dad lived in a nice neighborhood and stuff. But it is one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, like you were like protected from certain things, and then like
exactly
as someone who got arrested at like 22, like and then could not stop getting arrested. My first thought was never like, oh, I got to call my parents. It was like, I got to figure this out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like, so she sometimes I'll tell her stories and she's like, what?
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean?
How are you alive?
Yeah, she says that all the time. Like, I don't know how you made it this far. Like, I don't know.
You have a good job now.
I know,
I'm
doing fine.
You bought a house.
I know, I'm doing fine. I bought a house that I want to burn to the ground right now. Like
when you walked in and you were like, yeah, we're looking at places and stuff like that. And then, because I remember when we were out the other night, I was like, oh, you just bought a house. Like, a couple years ago. Yeah. But it's like, oh yeah, that might be an issue.
We fucked up buying that house really. Cause like we were like, oh, this will be an investment, you know, like we'll sell it. And then nobody wants to move there. Like nobody wants to move
at the time. Because my older sister sold her house in like 3 days. But this is like peak pandemic when everyone was like, we're going to Florida.
Yeah, dude.
She sold it in like 3 days, like 30% above market.
That's what we thought we were going to do. Turns out.
I don't mean to laugh, but
no, it's fine.
As someone who's lived his whole life, like, I thought, like, I was going to go to law school. I was engaged and about to get married. I was a Division I football player. And you're like, I saw things going differently in my mind.
Every time, man. It's crazy how it doesn't, you're like, oh, these are my plans. And then they're like, life is like, those plans.
You're good, man.
We don't like those plans.
That's like when I walked in high school, I have a bit about it, but it was like, my nickname is going to be Massive Tassive. And they all just looked at me and went, no, you're Fatty Tatty. And you're like,
no.
Yeah, okay. That's what I get for trying to plan that.
Yeah, you can't plan your nicknames.
I know. It has to be given to you. I want to ask you, because we still got a little bit more time. I want to ask you about the steroids thing and the TV heist.
So I did do steroids while doing while wrestling.
Did it help?
No.
What kind of steroids were you doing?
I was just doing testosterone.
Okay.
So I was injecting testosterone in my ass every day, waking up in the morning like, hell yeah, dude, fucking taking testosterone.
Here we go.
Lifting weights. It made me stronger, but it also made me more angry and have more acne. Dude, it was crazy.
Yeah.
So I was just like angry all the time, and I was like, why am I so mad all the time?
Did you see a difference physically? Like you said, it made you stronger, but a lot of people,
I did cut weight.
This is a common misconception is that, and I know bodybuilders talk about this all the time. They're like, yeah, you could do steroids, but if you're not doing the work, it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah. And I wasn't doing the work.
Yeah.
Like I mean,
you're not spending like 4 or 5 hours in the gym.
Not
every
at all.
day,
No, I just had a guy that worked at my job that was a bodybuilder. He was like, I can get you steroids if you want them. He was like, I can tell you how to use them. And then he was like, I'll train you too, but then he never really did. So then I was just taking steroids.
So now you're just like cutting weight.
Still in my house right now in one of my closets, there is a fanny pack full of steroids. I'm not even lying. Just needles and a fucking vials of steroids. So that's
do those expire?
I don't know. Maybe.
We got to talk about some stuff on there, you know. Exactly. I'm shooting a show, and in the next couple of weeks, got to try and get back into shape.
Yeah, for sure.
What happened with the TV heist?
So this is probably my greatest accomplishment.
Okay,
honestly.
glad we saved it for the end.
This is my greatest accomplishment, I think. So, I stole a 70-inch TV from Walmart.
How is that even possible?
Because I'm a fucking heist master. So what I
You're
did,
Danny Ocean over here,
dude. I swear. So what I did,
Ocean 1.
Yeah, exactly. I'm OG. So what I did, I went into Walmart and I was like, bored. It's just because I was bored.
Yeah.
And
So this is when you were a kid?
I was old enough to get arrested for it. I
Yeah.
didn't, but I was old enough if it went wrong. I was probably 21.
Yeah.
Like,
I was in jail with a lot of kids who got arrested.
Yeah.
For that kind of stuff.
And
like,
I
hey, what are you in for? They finally got me. I was taking TVs from Target, or I was taking computers from Walmart.
I also still love stealing from like corporations and stuff, like Walmart. There's something about it that just it feels like I'm doing something.
You're Robin Hood.
Yeah, I do feel that way. Like I keep it for myself. I don't give it to the poor.
But you are you grew up poor, so it's like
I'll go to Florida is a very theme park heavy place. I'll go to Florida and I'm not buying a bottle of water at a theme park. I am gonna steal the water every time, and they make it easy. Like you just literally,
it's almost like they want you.
Yeah,
to
they
be
want you to steal that water, like because they're charging $6 for a fucking Dasani, which is bullshit.
It's already gross water.
So it's terrible water.
Deal.
Yeah, it's terrible water, and they're charging you $6 for it. So I just walk in and take it. That's it. It's wild how you can just take things. Like it's crazy.
There's so many people that they're not even paying attention either.
You just take anything. Like you could just have it. Like this is mine now. Like and I drink it.
Cool.
Just walk around the store drinking it and then walk out. That's it. It's so easy.
What happened with the TV?
So the TV. So I went to Walmart and I was like, I have a whole plan. So this was right around the holidays. They had the TVs kind of out, the boxes. Mm-hmm. I just put it on one of their carts, like laid it out, flat. And I just walked up to the customer service and I was like, I want to return this TV. And they're like, do you have the receipt? I was like, no, but it's not going to fit in my entertainment center. I don't want it. And they're like, oh, well, if you don't have the receipt, you can't return it. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to leave this TV right here because I don't even want to load it in my own car again. I just spent the time unloading it from my car, bringing it in here. I don't even want to do this again. Like I'm leaving this TV right here. You deal with it. And they're like, "Oh, we'll have somebody load it in your car for you."
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. So I literally a Walmart employee, arm in arm, walks with me, pushing the cart. The alarm goes off, and they go, "No, he's with me." They take it out and they load a 70-inch TV into my car and go, "Okay, sir, have a nice day," and I leave.
God, this is white privilege personified.
It's the most white privilege. I accept my white privilege and I benefit from it all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, I've got friends like my buddy. I've got a couple of friends that are just like, and there's comics that have jokes about it, but it's like, if you're not using it, then the rest of us suffered for no reason.
100%. That is 100% true. Like
I've heard that on stage a few times.
I have people in my life who, are like incels or, whatever. I try to keep them out of my life, but in my life previously who will not admit to having white privilege. And I'm like, why? What do you mean?
Well, that's the thing is like I've gotten in like scuffles with cops. I've been slammed on the pavement, knee in the back of the head. I've been tased.
And you've never been shot.
I've never and I talk about this with Joe, my co-host of the sports podcast all the time because he's a black dude and he lives in Atlanta. And we've talked about this ad nauseum where it's like I have never once screaming in a cop's face thought, oh, he could kill me.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, that's exactly what we're talking about. And I was like,
that's it. That's what that is white privilege.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is.
Our old roommate used to be that way.
He was TV.
Yeah, our old roommate.
Do you still have the TV?
It broke on the last move or the move to Orlando. The last time I moved to
Orlando. Damn it.
Yeah, it broke. Fuck. But yeah, that was crazy. But yeah, we had a roommate who had a bunch of DUIs and shit, and had been arrested many times. Who just had that all wiped away.
Really?
Yeah, just he's working a good job but he was like, I don't have white privilege. I had to work hard for that. I'm like, you don't understand
what that means.
You have no idea what white privilege is.
Well, and it's even like I've had it where I did this joke for a little while, but there's a couple comics in New York that have more of a background like criminally than I do.
Sure, yeah.
And I remember I went to
New York?
Yeah.
Wow.
But I went to apply for an apartment here, and it came back because they do a background check. Now, normally it's only 4 to 7 years, which I'm clean on because I've been sober for 6.5, and I didn't really get in any trouble before that. My last DUI was in September of 17. So if they do 5 years, I'm good.
Yeah.
This one, they went back 10 years. And so I got flagged. So I was saying on stage, I was like, I can't even get an apartment. It looks like I'm a bigger criminal than so-and-so and so-and-so. And obviously everyone who knows them laughs.
Yeah, sure.
But one time one of them came up to me and they go, stop doing the fucking joke. And I was like, all right, no problem. I'm going to stop. I'm going to stop.
Yeah. No, yeah.
Dude, this was fun,
Yeah, it was
man.
a lot of fun. I appreciate you having me.
Of course. Plug everything one more time.
Yeah.
Social media, the whole deal.
Roger_Staton, Instagram, TikTok, probably Facebook. Who uses that anymore?
Yeah, right.
I don't really do X because that's like a conservative wasteland now.
Yeah.
So Instagram's my main one, Roger_Staton. TikTok as well. I appreciate you, man. I'm so happy.
Dude, thank you for coming on, man. I'm excited for us to be neighbors soon.
Yeah, soon. Very soon.
Thank you, everybody, so much for listening at Brennan T. Comedy on all social media, BrennanTComedy.com. November 20th, Grove 34, we're going to do Brennan and the Broken Toys. That's going to be a fun comedy show. Get your tickets online. We'll talk to y'all next week. Boom, that's it.
Nice. Thanks.